So this is about VC, Bitcoin VC. But before we get into that, how was y'all's flight? I mean, you guys haven't been to Austin in a while. Matt, I know you come here, once a year now? Muzz, maybe it's been 2 years, maybe?
It's good to be back in Austin. And thank you, Car, for having all of us.
You're all my friends.
Yeah, give it up for Car.
But you guys like it? What do you think? Is it different? Does it feel the same? More builders here? Are we beating Nashville? Is there a
It's
competition?
not a competition. And I love the new PlebLab location. It's fucking awesome. And Austin Airport during South by fucking sucks.
Oh, wow. Really?
You asked.
Yeah. Muzz?
Yeah, the new PlebLab location is phenomenal. I wish I could have seen it like buzzing, during the day, but I popped in there last night and met with you. It's crazy. I mean, Austin has its own thing going on. I mean, I was here not too long ago for the BitBlock boom, but Austin has a great Bitcoin community, Texas in general, and it's really unique for all of the United States, but Texas really has something special when it comes to builders and Bitcoin and forward-thinking legislation and miner-friendly laws and all that stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Let's jump into where we're at in the market right now, because I know for a lot of founders out there, builders are trying to raise money. Is this the right time to raise money? Is this the right time for VCs to get money, to give to founders to raise money? Where are we at as far as like that cycle right now? I know we're hitting 75K by startup day. Did we get 75K today? 69. Okay. Where are we at as far as like interest on the fund side? Is it there?
I mean, what I would say is like, I think in terms of private capital, it mostly lags price. So what I've been telling people, what I've been telling founders is that in the best case scenario for them is they should try and raise only what they need. If they need money right now, then of course they should be seeking funding. But if they do, they should be thinking about a small bridge round, only the amount of money they need, get themselves ready, and then as the bull starts to rip is when you start to get really solid valuations, when private capital is like really starting to slush around. Because you have to realize that we went through a long bear market. We went through a long bear market, and that bear market included rates going up and traditional VC getting absolutely wrecked. Like anyone who allocated into like Sequoia, A16.
Yeah, talk about that. Talk about why that's important.
Because they got fucking crushed, and they have a bunch of money stuck in those funds, and a bunch of those funds haven't even marked down their losses accurately yet. So there's actually more losses there than they realize. And they look at a lot of institutional investors will look at VC allocations as a whole, right? They have a certain amount of funds that they're going to allocate to VC. A lot of those are underwater. They're locked up right now. And Bitcoin wasn't really on their radar. And as Bitcoin starts to really rip, and it has been ripping, starting to see a lot of momentum happening in terms of the conversations we're having. They're paying attention to it. They're seeing the ETFs launch. They're paying attention to it, but it takes a little time for that money to actually, come into the ecosystem. So like as a founder, like you should be trying to, you're trying to put yourself in the best situation for when you are making those asks. And so I think at this point, it's, you still should be in almost a bear market mindset, like capital preservation, try and increase cash flow, keep burn as low as possible. But be ready, because we know how bull markets work, right? Like who knows how long we're up there for. And you want to be, you want to have those connections now. You want to be having the conversations now, but don't necessarily be making the big asks.
Gotcha. Muzz?
So yeah, I mean, I think everyone is raising money right now. All the Bitcoin VCs, right? I like how we separate them. The Bitcoin VCs are out raising funds or preparing to raise or mid-raise, and same thing with the companies, right? By the way, don't ever call it a bridge. That's a bad word. Call it an extension, Okay, bridges is not a good word.
What's a bridge, Muzz?
A bridge round is like in between, right? In between your seed and your Series A, you might say we're raising a bridge round, but those bridges can go to nowhere, all right? But an extension is a much better way to market it to those people. So yeah, I mean, what Matt said here, I echo the same thing all the time. Milestone-based financing, right? Hit a milestone, just raise what you need to get to that next level. Have it clearly defined. And having been through some cycles now of saying, you know, we're going to raise another X amount to buy ourselves 18 months of runway with no real clear plan on what they're going to do at the end of it. Those days are long gone. So everyone now, and that's great because everyone's really tightened up what they're spending. They're doing as much work as they can from a bootstrap sense, raising as little capital as possible, mostly out of necessity because the capital is not really there. And it does lag, just what Matt says. You know, it takes a lot of time for the wealth effect, right? From markets, from the Bitcoin price, and that flywheel of money, right? Because you have the LPs who give all their money to the VCs, all right? And then the VCs give all their money to the startups, right? And then those startups have liquidity events that then give it back to the VCs that return it back to the LPs. And that's how it goes, right? And then all of a sudden you have a kink in the hose there, all right? And that really mucks up everything moving forward to where it just stops, right? Whether Sequoia marked down their investments or not, a lot of those people are stuck. And you're in a world of illiquid private markets where it's not just so easy to hit the sell button. And I know because I've invested in over 2,000 private deals, and I could really use some liquidity. All right, but hindsight's 20/20 on that. So yeah, just raise as much as you need. For example, I'm raising something for myself right now for a startup where I'll get a chance to be the founder and CEO, and I'm pretty excited about that. And I'm only raising $500,000. All right, which is like the minimum that I would need, right? So talk your own book, right? Set a low valuation. Don't waste your time fundraising. I don't want to waste time fundraising. How much are you going to raise? You know, sorry to ramble here, but you know, you talk to a founder and you're like, hey, what are you going to raise? And the founder's like, I don't know, maybe it's a 10 million valuation, maybe 14. I'm going to raise 600K. Maybe I'll go to 1.2 million. No. All right, that's not how it works, okay? I know what I'm doing. I'm raising 500K. It's a 5 mil post-money valuation. I'm sticking a 20% discount on it. I'm going to get 2 VCs that are going to come in for 250K a pop. I'm done. That's it. None of this, oh, I might go to this and I might do that. And like, know what you're going to do. Keep it fair. Keep it short. And then be done with it, right? Don't get into this whole, you know, well, maybe. You know what you want, get it, lock it in, and be done. So you can go back to building the damn thing.
Matt, you have anything to add? Okay, so can you guys raise your hand if you're a founder or if you're a builder inside of Bitcoin Commons right now, as far as like, and then raise your hand if you're doing the top builder competition later today. Raise your hand if you were in top builder. Cool.
Raise your hand if you have a lot of money and you're in a position to give it to someone in this room.
No, we're not doing that.
Not one hand.
It's about the builders.
We took flights to be here.
You guys got this. So I want to open it up to questions because I think it's more about y'all, and I think the fact that you guys get more visibility. There's some people that competed in top builder that didn't get to the final 6, but they're totally ready to go. What do they need as a founder, as a builder, before they reach out to Matt or 1031 or you, Muzz, with Lightning Ventures? Like, what's their homework? What do they need to get in place?
Well, I mean, you're their home. You're their place, right? And that's where the hackathons, the tournaments, you know, the PlebLabs, the Bolt funds, the build in public, the exercises, the co-founder speed dating, okay, whatever it is to get to that point, right? You need to figure out if it's a hobby project or if it's a business. And that doesn't mean that you shouldn't work on it. There are a lot of things that need to be built that might not be businesses. Some crazy obscure node management liquidity tool, God bless you. You know what I mean? But that might not be the venture-backed start a business, right? So then you start to train your mind to think about like, well, how can I make this a really investable business? If somebody was going to invest in it, how do you make it enterprise grade? How do you take it to the next level? Okay. And then you need to incorporate properly. That's a whole nother thing. You can't just, willy-nilly start sliding into Matt's DMs being like, yo, I'm looking for some funding. And then it's like, well, tell me, it's like, well, we know we don't have a data room and we're not incorporated or whatever, but this is a really cool idea. And here's our white paper. You definitely need to set up your company for success and do all that boring shit, get somebody who can help you get your company to where you can actually fundraise.
I mean, I think first off, especially if you're building in the Bitcoin ecosystem, you should never expect that you're going to get a VC check. Like you should just assume that you're not going to get outside investment anytime soon. And the reason I say that is because this whole idea of Bitcoin VCs is relatively new. Like over the past decade that I've, watched this thing grow, most of the money gets allocated to shitcoins and crypto and all this bullshit. Token schemes, all that stuff. And even now we have, so-called Bitcoin only VCs that are doing the same thing, but quote unquote on Bitcoin with like, BitVM, ordinal scam kind of things. And like layer twos, like fake layer twos so you can stake Bitcoin and all this garbage. So if you're building like an actual solid project on Bitcoin, you kind of have to come at it from like a bootstrapping mentality. And even after you get that first VC check, never assume the second one's coming in, right? It's survival. It's a straight game of survival. You need to survive. Everyone always says bear markets are rebuilding. There's a survivorship bias there. Most projects fail in bear markets, but the ones that survive through the bear markets and build through the bear markets end up in being in a much better situation when the bull starts to rip. The second thing I would say is if you are a software project, consider going FOSS and applying for an OpenSats grant. Through OpenSats, we've given out over 100 grants now. No strings attached, you get Bitcoin. I think that's a beautiful incentive. It's a great way to, maybe get your first little bit of funding, get it off the ground, start trying to develop some product market fit. And then third thing is Sats flow, baby. You need to get that Sats flow. Figure out ways that your project can start earning Bitcoin today, because we're not in a fiat mindset anymore. You can't do this growth at all costs thing and then try and monetize 20 years down the line, 30 years down the line. There's $50 billion valuation companies that have never made a profit. You can't do that in Bitcoin land because we don't know what the price of Bitcoin is going to be in 10 years. It's probably going to be a lot higher than it is today. So a Bitcoin earned today is worth a lot more than less Bitcoin earned tomorrow. So you got to start really thinking about that Sats flow piece.
But what he said as far as the grants and the non-dilutive funding is super important, and it's more prevalent now than it's ever been before. Okay, and that's OpenSats. All right, that's HRF. That's things like a geyser campaign that you put a bunch of love and time into. Who else is donated? There are probably some others that I can't remember right now, but really make the most use of that if your project is something that really fits into that. A Bitcoin-only exchange in Canada is probably not ripe for a geyser campaign or an OpenSats grant. Okay, that's something that you might want to get some venture funding for. Or some crowdfunding or whatever you're going to do. But a lot of the things that come out of these hackathons are literally perfect for the grants. So really, I encourage people to apply for those all the time. If you're making your documentary, your movie, okay, your Bitcoin documentary movie, that's got geyser written all over it. If it's like a certain thing for women, getting women into Bitcoin and advocating to certain groups, like those are great for grants and non-dilutive things, So really make the most of that.
I want to open up to questions because I really think it's important for these builders to ask these guys some questions. I know, Aaron, you're over there with the Resolver. Do you guys have any questions? Yeah, go ahead, Aaron.
Yeah.
I'll repeat it for the mic.
Yeah. So I'm Aaron from Resolver. We were in the hackathon. We rolled into the PlebLab top builder. Some of the guys over at the one. So yeah, just like a nuts and bolts question, like talking about startups and banking. Like, if you fiat costs and you need a bank account, like, where are you going to find one that you're not going to get deplatformed?
So the question was, where are you going to find Bitcoin banking or banking for Bitcoiners, Bitcoin companies? What do you guys tell your companies?
So there's more options now than there were, and it really depends on the type of business that you are. I actually just opened two, right, for myself. It's a Bitcoin company, right? But you don't want to mention that in your application, right? Whatever you're doing, it's something else. You don't put that in the line there. But they're approved, and it'll be an operating account, and it is what it is. Custodia, right? There's a small fee associated with that, but they'll take you on right now. We just did a call with them. Maybe there's like yeah, but it's $100 a month or whatever. It's not the same deal as a standard checking account. You have to pay something with Custodia, but that's a very friendly option.
The other thing is, it's good to have a corporate name that doesn't say Bitcoin in it.
Yeah.
I like just numbers, just pick a number. The other thing is local banks. Go and meet your local banker. They tend to be more amenable. And then some of our companies have found success with Mercury, which is like a neo bank. They're like a skin on top of other banks. Last but not least, just multiple bank accounts. And all of this gets much more complicated if you're running like a regulated business where you need to have customer deposits and stuff. But if you're not running one of those, just multiple bank accounts. I personally think the bank runs are going to continue, so keep it under the FDIC minimum, so they definitely print money to bail you out. And consider having, a large portion of your treasury in Bitcoin. I'm very pro that as a concept.
Any other question? Really? Okay, there you go. Tommy.
I have a question. So, what are the criteria for, I guess, what do you look for when giving out open sat? What's the criteria?
The question was, what's the criteria for open sats?
Number one thing is it has to be free open source software. So if you have a restrictive license, you would need to change your license. The second thing is, we have a very straightforward process. You go to opensats.org, you click the apply button, there's a grant application. The way we have it set up is we have 9 board members, and our board members will review your application, and then we essentially vote on the application, and it's 5 of 9 votes, grant gets approved. Most of them are paid out monthly. And it's just all in Bitcoin. Everything's in Bitcoin.
Any other questions? Christopher.
I wonder how you guys think about sources of revenue and like opportunity to orange pill, or like how hardcore should a company be about requiring payment in Bitcoin, login via Nostr versus some conveniences for more mainstream audiences like login with email or pay with a credit card or Stripe? How do you think about sources of revenue and orange pilling opportunities there?
Question was, how do you think about sources of revenue for orange pilling opportunities?
I think that you should build everything for Aunt Mary and Uncle Bob. And honestly, this is like the number one mistake. This is the thing that I fight with all of our founders about. It's their company. They can do whatever they want, right? But you have the list of priorities. Someone was up here talking about it earlier with Zaprite and what they attack every month. You have your list of priorities of things that you could do. And right at the top is like, hey, we're going to implement some NIPO 5, this, that. We're going to spend 6 weeks for whatever, for like 30 people, right? It's going to increase nothing. Like, that's cool and all, right? It's like that guitar solo, you like masturbate all over it. But like, you need to write hits. You need to write some hits, okay? You don't need to go off on the crazy solo, all right? So, hey, here's an idea, guys. How about accepting credit cards for your business? That would actually make a difference. That would actually raise your revenue. That would be great. No, we're going to make it so everything is logging with Nostr. You don't even know that you're logging in with Nostr. And it's like, okay, well, that's great, but like, let's keep the eye on the prize. So I'm a big fan of like building it for the normies, right? And Zaprite was up here talking about that. They have all the fiat options, right? And I remember when John was getting started, it was all Bitcoin, Bitcoin only, Bitcoin only, Bitcoin only. It's like, dude, like, what about the rest of the world? Like, not everyone is able to do that. So I'm all about that. I'm all about, I joke, it's like more fiat. I want more fiat bullshit in the Bitcoin world, because that's the only way we're going to get them. That's the only way that it's going to happen, right? Until the transition. That's just how I feel. He might be a little more hardcore. Maybe he's like,
No, I mean most Bitcoiners are LARPs. Like they won't even pay in Bitcoin. So you have to think where we are in the adoption cycle. And you have to maximize revenue for your business. However that's best. But I mean, like I helped launch Bitcoin Park in Nashville, right? And we tried to do Bitcoin only in the beginning, and now we accept credit cards. Because Bitcoiners wouldn't pay their membership dues in Bitcoin, and it was a bear market, and we really needed the revenue, and we needed to be sustainable, and so that's what we did. You have to do what you have to do to build a business.
Let me ask you a question. Just more, and I've never asked y'all this before, but what do you like best about founders in Bitcoin? Like I know Andre earlier says, "Don't bother." It's a thankless job. He's telling the truth. But for both y'all, what do y'all love about Bitcoin founders, and why do y'all do what you do as VCs in the Bitcoin space?
Bitcoin founders are some of the best people in the world. It's just I'm so grateful that every day I get to work with, tens of founders through 1031. We have 35 portfolio companies now. We work very closely with them. I try and stay out of their hair unless they need me. But I just love working with them. And then on the OpenSat side, working with so many developers, I mean, there's so much passion. Like there's no other industry like Bitcoin, because there's this shared equity across everybody, which is Bitcoin, the underlying asset. And it's this open, permissionless, interoperable protocol. So everyone can work together and benefit from it. I really do not think we are at the stage in Bitcoin's life where anyone in this room is competing with each other. Like we cannot comprehend the kind of growth we see in Bitcoin, and there's plenty of room for everyone to be successful. There's so much passion, and I just love it every day.
something unique about Bitcoin founders that I've never seen with any of outside anywhere else in traditional venture capital or angel investing is that Bitcoin founders have this quality where they will not die. Okay. And, you know, you want to talk about runway and like, hey, here's what we're burning and we're at 10 months runway. The amount of times I've had a founder be like, Muzz, as long as I'm here on this planet, this thing is going. Okay. So, you know, I mean, you could go down to the felt. You could have no money left. It could be not looking good. I know these companies will keep building. They will find a way, right? Whether there is more money there immediately or not, or however, they just won't die. A great example of that is actually PlebLab.
Oh, wow. Thanks. I don't know, maybe not thanks, I guess.
Literally, it is an act of God miracle that PlebLab is still alive.
It really is God. It actually really is God that's doing this.
It is God, and he's been praying on it. But, you know, and you just literally won't die. And
I don't want to die.
But all of these other investments, and I've gotten a lot of dissolution letters from founders. And by the way, it's okay to fail, right? I don't get upset when a company fails.
It's not okay to fail.
It is okay to fail.
No, it's not.
It is okay.
That kind of talk is for outside of Austin. Not here in Austin.
All right, well,
can't fail.
Let's fucking go.
You either do epic shit or get out. That's it.
Sometimes you do epic shit and fail.
No, you do epic shit or you get out. You get out of town. Most people who fail get out of town anyway. So
all right, failing is not an option.
We are humble, but we gotta do epic shit here. This is how you stay number one.
So failing is not an option. But should you find yourself...
See what we argue about every time I have a call with them? It's just like, I'm not going to,
No, but that's basically it. I mean, Bitcoin founders are so resilient that whether they cut their salary or they're living on ramen, which is how they started from the beginning, right? Before they even got a little bit of money and then they're back on the ramen, they just won't die. And that to me is the most unique quality of Bitcoin builders and founders in the space.
Cool. We got time for one more question. Yeah, go ahead.
When do you guys, as VCs, start advising your portfolio company, whether you're reaching out for funding, to start looking at some of the nuanced challenges outside of building or like financial due diligence or operational due diligence, corporate and regulatory compliance stuff, wherever that might be a risk?
VC question. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I'm confused by the question.
Yeah, I don't really understand the question.
All right, so let's say you're doing your due diligence on the companies, or you're advising them on how to like progress to the next level. So you have your operations and you have your stuff that you're building, but you're touching, regulatory nexus, or you might have corporate compliance issues that are going to come up. Like, when do you start advising your companies to look into those things and start building around it, policies and procedures, controls, I don't know, corporate governance structures? When does that kick in for you guys?
So corporate governance structures, that like in the genesis block of forming your company is important, right? There's a lot of those things, right? What happens? You didn't take a vacation day and then you leave, and how does the founder's equity vest, and all this kind of nonsense that you have to worry about in the beginning. That's a whole nother thing. I personally think it's easier to ask forgiveness than permission. And I like to tell a lot of these companies, you can break all sorts of rules. Like, what do you mean money transmitter license for your custodial thing? Just do it. See, you get a letter in the mail, deal with it then, right? It's so much easier to just get traction and kind of, bend the rules a little bit. You know what I mean?
Don't be Wallet of Satoshi.
I'm a big fan. Well, they could still be here right now. Now they made that choice. They could still be here. But, I like to say to just bend the rules, and we're all so under the radar. I mean, everything is so under the radar that,
Matt, what do you think? Are we under the radar?
It really depends on the business, right? And it's handled on a case by case basis. And some businesses are obviously more regulatory exposed than others. And there's no one size fits all. I mean, a lot of so with 1031, we invest from pre-seed all the way up to Series B. We led Strike Series B round. But even something like Strike in their Series B, it's still very much an early stage company because Bitcoin is so early. I think there's a tendency to overthink and overcomplicate things, but also at the same time, if you're a regulatory exposed business, if you're a business like Strike, and you have, licenses in many countries throughout the world, they have more licenses than Coinbase. You have a team of lawyers, you have a heavy regulatory strategy because that's what you need to do to survive. But if you're a smaller team, like a Mutiny wallet or something like that, it doesn't make any sense to be, to burden yourself with that kind of complexity at such an early stage.
Great answer. I think that's everything. I want to thank you, Matt, for coming, making the trip. Obviously, you're here for tomorrow. What are you guys doing tomorrow?
Anything for you, Car. And honestly, I know I always shit on your airport, but I love this city, and it is the best Bitcoin city in the world.
Wow. Thank you. That's confirmed, Marty. That's confirmed. What are you doing tomorrow here? Can you talk about the 1031 stuff and then the RHR?
We have a 1031 happy hour after we do the top builder, which I'm excited about. Happy hour is always a good time. And then tomorrow we have Bitcoin Takeover, which should be fantastic. I believe we have 10 or so founders that will be presenting about their companies.
We still have tickets, Parker?
I think Parker said it's sold out.
Sold out.
So I'm teasing you about an event that you can't come to if you haven't bought a ticket already. But I think the content will be distributed afterwards. But am I right, Marty? Yes, it will.
Cool. And then what are you guys doing for RHR? Is that right afterwards?
Oh yeah, we end Bitcoin Takeover with Rabbit Hole Recap.
Nice.
The podcast Marty and I have been doing for 5.5 years every single fucking week.
Take a break. Muzz, what do you got in the pipeline?
Well, I don't have a ticket for the thing tomorrow, so I guess I'm out of luck there. But maybe I'll find some people to hang out, or I'll go to PlebLab. I'll sit there all day.
Yeah, come hang out with us. Hey, what's Lightning Ventures up to?
Lightning Ventures is a syndicate that is a way for you to get started investing in Bitcoin startups and companies. If you are interested in learning about angel investing and maybe chipping in $1,000 to all these companies that you know and love that are around and want to potentially be impactful and help the company and all of that good stuff. That's like the best way to get started with that. So I run that syndicate, Lightning Ventures. We've deployed over $8 million and to probably close to 100 deals at this point. And that's what we're up to. We're raising our second fund. It'll be our first real fund. That's happening too. And we're working on something super secret in our top lab, in our secret lab. That'll be something similar to a way where anyone can invest using Bitcoin or credit card or fiat rails and not have to click this right accredited investor BS button, right? Which is a way for anyone to invest. So I'm really pumped on that.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys. We're going to get it started with Top Builder. Dono, we're going to reset the stage. So I guess we got like a 10-minute break.